Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Today we have our fourth session in which we will discuss about cultural diplomacy, and we have our speaker from a lecturer and professor from National University of Modern Languages, Ms. Beenish Khan, and she is lecturer from last many years, and she has uh, great knowledge about diplomacy, international affairs, and global politics. Thank you very much, Ms. Beenish Khan, for joining us today. Uh, I would like to give the floor to you so you can continue, and I am sharing your screen as well.
Assalamu alaikum everyone and hello. Today we're going to discuss the topic. The topic that we're going to discuss today is cultural diplomacy. What cultural diplomacy is, what are the components of cultural diplomacy, and how can we adopt cultural diplomacy, and how can countries adopt cultural diplomacy, and then they can play a vital role. First of all, we're going to start off with this definition. What is cultural diplomacy? So basically, cultural diplomacy is an art of winning hearts and minds. That is how you would say it in a normal terms. And then it is basically cultural diplomacy may be best described as a course of action which be based on utilizing exchange of ideas, values, traditions, and other aspect of culture or identity, whether to strengthening relationship or enhancing social cultural cooperation, promoting national interest and beyond. Cultural diplomacy can be practiced either by public sector, private sector, or civil society. So it's basically a merger of all three sectors that is how we can execute our cultural diplomacy. Then you can define cultural diplomacy as the use of creative expression, exchange of ideas, information, people to people exchange programs, and increase obviously when you have exchange of ideas and expressions, and there is an exchange of information as well. So there is a vital chances of mutual cooperation and understanding to take place. Now we're gonna identify what are the spectrums and what are the ways through which we can propagate or through which we can identify and promote our culture. So first of all is cultural diplomacy is the first component through which our cultural diplomacy can work. Then you have public diplomacy, then you have propaganda, soft power, and branding. In the further slide, we would individually tell how these all elements play a very vital role in cultural diplomacy. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, cultural diplomacy and public diplomacy. Basically, the essence component of public diplomacy is cultural diplomacy. So public diplomacy is basically known as an effective tool to build positive image with publics of the other countries. So if you want to enhance your global image across globe, you can obviously extend it with your cultural diplomacy and public diplomacy. Then the aim is to influence foreign public, and they may influence their own government action towards another action. So the aim is to influence people, their governments, and the people living there. So cultural activities demonstrate best at nation building and building understanding between nations. So they can play a very vital role in bringing harmony and bringing peace in the region as well. And they can play a very vital role in, playing a very vital role in mutual understanding between the states as well. Move to the next slide, please. Now, how does your soft power plays a vital role in cultural diplomacy? So basically, soft power, what is soft power? So soft power is the ability to pursue through cultural values, ideas, and opposed by as hard power is that you want to conquer through military. So soft power is that when you have the ability to influence the other culture through ideas, through cultural exchange programs. This is all about of soft power. So soft power plays a very vital role in your cultural diplomacy. To attract through attraction rather than cohesion. So if you want to go and attract another country, so they can attract, mutually can be attracted rather than use of force. So cultural diplomacy is a form of soft power that strives to foster exchange values, ideas, to promote knowledge of other countries and build a bridge between countries as well. So it can play a very vital role if you want to bridge a will between the other countries. Now, what is cultural diplomacy between cultures um, is a term, but ancient. It has been always an ancient practice. From the reciprocal gifts of ancient rulers to the modern day export, culture has been used as a way leaders and countries to show they are and assert their power and building lasting relationships. So there has been explorers, there have been travelers, there have been traders, teachers, artists can all be the cultural ambassadors, the informal ambassadors, or the cultural diplomats as well. So indeed, any person who interact with different cultures or currently is in fast facilitating form of cultural exchange can be taken in fields such as art, sport, music, science, business, economy, and beyond. So it's a very vast topic that horizontal that covers a lot of aspects regarding it. How cultural diplomacy is carried out. This is a question that might arise in your mind as well. So cultural diplomacy can include academia, they can include professionals, they can include student exchange programs, media, conferences, lectures on economy and social problems, literature, film, theater, art, exhibition, dance, music. This all are a part of your cultural diplomacy. Now, most cultural concerns and cultural attaches or directly in the embassies or institutions around the world have job prescription asking them to promote art and artists of the cultural scene from their home through exhibition concerts. All those people working in the embassy there, they have a very vital role in promoting their cultural exchange programs and promoting their culture in the country, their home culture in the country which they are working in away from home. So then we'll move to the next slide and we have certain examples regarding how cultural diplomacy works. Now, these are certain examples that you guys can see. That Pakistani embassy in Italy hosted Pakistani Literature Day in Rome in 2013. Then we have international writing program by USA. Then obviously, if you consider folk and if you consider music a way of transmitting and promoting your culture, so Coke Studio plays a very vital role in Pakistan. Then China's cultural diplomacy, we've got Confucius Institute that's working and functioning in our university as well. So there are a lot of things that are generally practicing. Then you have these programs like sports based as well. You have Olympics, you have PSL. Then you have this massive influence of Hollywood as well. So all these medium can help you in creating and promoting your culture. So basically, US artists and international support performance by American artists that were to import culture in global markets. So basically, when things get very harsh between the states, so they can use the tool of cultural diplomacy to normalize relationship between the state as well. So this is a very vital tool to consider when you have bitter relationship between states. Next slide. Then effective platform for cultural diplomacy. So what platforms would you be needing for cultural diplomacy? So social media is an effective in promoting ideas, international exchange programs like you have Fulbright and other international programs that you can apply for. Speakers at international conference through art during World War II. US sent artists that I've already talked about, an American classical rock star band on a world tour, and music and dance and literature was promoted, and this kind of de-accelerated the rift that Soviet Union and USA had, and they had a musical concert in Cuba as well. So this, bring people to people contact, and this somehow lessen the tension between the two states. So open dialogue and creating neutral territories. For example, 1984 international conference was organized on postmodernism to bring people of India, Pakistan, Lahore together with the scientists of Turkey, England. So you can all work globally as well regarding all these things. Okay. Then what are the strategies for a diplomat who wants to enhance the cultural diplomacy in this in the country that he's working in. So basically, there are diaspora's connection can play a community can play a very important role in establishing connection across cultural, linguistic, religion, and other diasporas. Then there can be innovation as well to achieve through innovative means. For example, language translation. For example, in our university, we have basically a whole Confucius block which they can translate you things. So there are other languages as well which have come and collaborated with our university. So this is how you can promote your culture into different educational institutes like that as well. Then you have a consistent cultural diplomacy is an essential when traditional channels, for example, when cultural diplomacy can flourish when the traditional channels don't work, so then you can obviously opt for cultural diplomacy, and which are not available. So then you can obviously, it's like winning the hearts and minds of the general people. Then what are the merits? And we're going to talk about the limitations of this cultural diplomacy. Now, the marriage of cultural diplomacy is to bring countries, to build countries' reputation, formulation of official political relationship building. It can keep a negotiation channel with the countries and where political connection are jeopardized. For example, I already told you the example of Cuba and USA artist exchange program when the relationships were terrible with each other. And recently, if you see our country between India and Pakistan, we have this Kartarpur corridor, which is kind of a cultural importance and for the Sikh community living in India. So it's kind of people-to-people contact that can obviously help in building new, better relationship between the countries as well, which have bitter relationship previously. The silent way of gaining control over one's public through non-violent and to win the support of foreign public for policies, for strengthening of modern countries in life, in quality of relationship and linkages established with friends, allies, and partners, help to demonstrate national power with the turn of essence of national security as well. So you help to enhance your national power, and that can help in securing your national security as well. So as these are the merits of cultural diplomacy, the pros that you can con. So what are the cons of cultural diplomacy? So we're going to talk about the limitations, that what limitations do we have regarding the cultural diplomacy. So the first limitation that we have, it's a long-term commitment. Obviously, you will not get result in few days. Maybe it would take years to building the relationship. So it's not an immediate goal. It won't be something that you would expect that you would get immediate results from. Then there is no parameter estimated of success, since the effort can't be measured. So it's untangible. So you can't it is something that you cannot tangibly calculate that this was your success, this was your merit, and this was your demerit. So this is something which is untangible. Then you have uncertainty regarding human perspective. Sometimes you can have a positive response from the general public, and sometimes you can have a negative response as well from the general public. So it depends. Sometimes you can have a mixed response as well. So you can't predict that what kind of response would you be having. So it is something that you are a bit more uncalm. You can't say, like, you can't be 100% sure that what kind of reaction would that country have. So it's something that you cannot do regarding it. Then it cannot be changed or compensated policy outcomes. For example, if you need immediately, you wanted a policy outcome, so you would not immediately be able to seek a policy outcome out of this cultural diplomacy. It would take some time to formulate a policy, and it would take some time for the people acceptance for this cultural diplomacy. And I think I'm done. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beenish Khan, for your detailed presentation. It was very informative, and you discussed about cultural diplomacy and the role of public and winning hearts and minds of people. So it was, a very good presentation. But I would like to add something, that just before 2 or 3 years, the government of Pakistan, especially the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has started the initiative of public diplomacy. Pakistan's public diplomacy department is established in Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So the purpose of that department is to strengthen and cooperate with different cultures across the world, and to involve public in diplomacy. So they wish, for example, if there is a country's Independence Day, so they wish them, the purpose of that public diplomacy department is to celebrate their, you can say, national days, and wishing countries on their independence days and all these kind of national days. So, I mean, public diplomacy, the purpose of public diplomacy is to convey, you can say, the positive image of a country, and cultures can play a very vital role. And I would like to add one more thing, that Azerbaijan is one of those countries which are having a strong cultural diplomacy, because in those countries there is a kind of, you can say, multiculturalism. These are the multicultural societies. So they have tolerance, they have religious tolerance, they can accept every kind of culture. So culture can really play a very vital role in strengthening and improving cooperation between the countries. That's it. That's my point. So I would like to invite other participants as well. If they want to ask any question, they are welcome. Yes, Miss Lia Komba, you can ask your question. We can't hear you.
Hi, everyone. Yes,
Hello.
yes. Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. You can ask now.
My name is Leah. Yes, my name is Leah Komba, and I'm from Angola. And our speakers talk a lot about how our the educational field through schools and students. How can we help cultural diplomacy evolve?
There's some distortion in your line. I can't hear you. So if you can type your message, that would be more convenient, because I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. There's some connection issue. So if you can repeat your question again, so
I'll write it down. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, so I was saying that you talked a lot about how art and the diaspora can help in cultural diplomacy. And I want to know, how can we help cultural diplomacy evolve in the educational field through schooling and students? How can we practice cultural diplomacy?
Okay, cultural diplomacy at your heart when you're student. There's a lot of scholarship programs that invite you, student exchange programs as well. So you can apply for some student education programs as well in some of the universities. Obviously, if you ask your university, they have certain MOU signed with certain universities. So you can obviously go and live into other country, and then obviously you can promote your cultural diplomacy as well. And then obviously if you get an opportunity, you can travel, and through obviously you can go to some summer school. A lot of summer schools. There are a lot of summer schools that offer a lot of new cultural experience as well. I was a part of one summer school as well back in 2017, and I did a course in international European studies from University of Vienna. So we were people from all across the world. So you can apply to these kind of degree programs. And then obviously when you go obviously to a new country, then you'll be able to exhibit your culture more appropriately as well. And obviously if you were a student, so you need to obviously you can propagate your culture in your university very well as well. So it depends upon the will to do things. You'll get means to do it as well. So the will matters, and then you'll get a lot of platforms like that as well. So essentially it can become a very important role that students can play a very vital role as well. And then obviously if you see the history in the past, the countries like Germany and France, they never used to like each other, in the sense that they had a very hostile and bitter relationship. So to foster their relationship and to normalize their relationship, they had, for example, if it's a 4 years degree program, so 2 years you had to do degree in 2 years you have to do degree in France, and 2 years degree you have to do in Germany. So it's like a mutually exchange program. So that helped in fostering relationship between the countries, and that helped in alleviating the bitter relationship that was between the countries. And obviously people to people contact, made a lot of vital changes into the mindsets of people as well. And obviously when you accommodate and when you meet new people, so the perspective that your country is showing you, it's completely different from the perspective that you get from people to people contact. So this is how you can become an agent of change as well, and this is how you can become you can play a very, very vital role in your policy formulation as well. Okay. Did you got your answer?
Thank you.
Yes,
very
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
If anyone else would like to ask any question, please, you are welcome. Ma'am, I think no one is having any kind of question, but I mean, I would like to ask one thing, that how we can differentiate between a public diplomacy and cultural diplomacy, because is it, I mean, specific to the certain public, or you can you please differentiate between a public diplomacy and cultural diplomacy?
Okay. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay. Cultural diplomacy is a part of your public diplomacy. What is public diplomacy? Public diplomacy has different components. So cultural diplomacy is a part of your cultural public diplomacy. So it's one of the complements, they complement each other. So these are one of the things that, complement each other, in the sense that there is no much distinguishing between them. It's kind of a thing that is reciprocal with each other. For example, what is cultural diplomacy? Cultural diplomacy basically focuses on reciprocal cultural exchange. That is why it's often termed as cultural diplomacy. Whereas public diplomacy favors unilateral communication. It is primarily addresses the masses. So basically, public diplomacy has this domain of cultural diplomacy. They're interlinked with each other. So when you say that cultural diplomacy is a part of public diplomacy, there is no doubt that there is a part of public diplomacy is a part of cultural diplomacy. It helps in nation building, it helps in branding, it helps in social cohesion, whereas the cultural diplomacy helps in the best way. It's kind of, cultural diplomacy is a tool of public diplomacy. So that is how you can promote your your image across the globe. So this is the difference. It's a part of cultural diplomacy.
Thank you. Thank
and
you very
basically,
much.
it's in public diplomacy, it's mostly like an official channel it is involved, whereas in cultural diplomacy, it's like people to people contact, a non-official channel. The civil society plays a very vital role in that.
Thank you.
Two questions.
Thank you. Yes, Leah Komba. Yes, please.
Yes, I just want to make a comment. There is a comment here in the chat that I really want to know your opinion. There is written here in the chat by Narmin, I guess is his name. He says, in my opinion, cultural diplomacy is related to education. It all starts with education. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think everything starts with education. It's the awareness, it's the education that can bring a lot of change, and it's an education that can play a very vital role in fostering and bettering relationship between states and promoting tolerance from one state to another. So education plays a very vital role in every sphere of our lives, and even in human mind, human thinking, in human civilization as well. Not just in diplomacy, it plays a vital role in every sphere of life.
Thank you. Thank you very much for answering all the questions. I think there are no further questions. Yes, thank you. So
Thank you
also,
so much.
I mean, we can say that we have seen different cultural diplomats as well. They are not career diplomats, but we have seen some cultural diplomats because of their, cooperation with the countries, because of their interest. We have seen different people, so they are appointed as a cultural ambassador. So we can say that all these things like educational exchange programs, student exchange programs, cultural exchange programs, these all things are interlinked with each other. We can say that.
Thank you so much for the positive feedback, everyone. And thank you so much for finding this session informative. For positive or negative feedback will be welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beenish, for joining us today, and thanks to all other participants as well. And thanks for this fruitful presentation, ma'am. And today we are ending up our session here, and we will see you in our upcoming sessions. So thank you very much, and good luck, everyone.
Well, thank you. Allah Hafiz, everyone.